Hello, SEO enthusiasts. Caleb Williams here from SSW. I'm sure we all know the importance of making sure our pages rank on Google, as well as making sure they look great in the search results on Google. So today, I'm going to show you how to auto-populate the meta description tags for any page on your website using AI. Let's get into it. So if you're not familiar with what meta description tags are, we do have a rule on them that's going to go into a little bit more depth than I do in this video. But basically, it's a meta tag. It has this attribute name with a value description, and whatever you plug into the content tag gets used as the summary for your site next to the link in the Google search results. Now, you want to make sure that you have these filled out, because when you don't, Google will autofill the summary itself, but it usually just takes a snippet of the content from somewhere in the page out of context. It leaves these trailing ellipses, and it doesn't really provide a lot of context about the company or what it is that they sell. And overall, it just doesn't look great. So for a great example of a site that did have their meta description tag manually filled out at the time that it was indexed, Tina CMS has a very nice meta description here. It tells you a little bit about the product, why you might want to buy it over its competitors. And it's just a great initial introduction to the product that I might want to read before I click on the link. Now, to fill these out manually, what you would do is you would create a head tag with a meta tag nested somewhere in the head, somewhere in the HTML for your document. I'm using React, but you could do this with standard HTML. And what you'd want to do is you'd come up with a meta description for that page just based on the content, and you would put it into the content attribute. But this is a fairly manual approach. If you've been creating pages on your site just on the fly and you haven't been adding meta description tags, it can be a pain to go back and add all of those missing meta descriptions. So I'm going to show you how to do things a better way. I'm going to be using a few different tools for this, one of which is ChatGPT, which I'm going to be interfacing with through the completions API. I'm also going to be using Next.js to store the content of my site in Markdown, and that Markdown will get rendered out as HTML. And I'm also going to be using Python to automate the process of talking to ChatGPT and passing it that site content so it can give me back a nice meta description. I'm going to be using SSW's website as the example for this video. Now, SSW had a unique problem. They were really trying to optimize their site for SEO performance. So they made sure they had their meta description tags filled out, but they used a placeholder meta description tag across almost all of the pages on their site. So they had about 4,000 duplicate meta descriptions. What I'm looking at right now, by the way, is a popular SEO auditing tool called SEMrush, which will flag any UX issues with your site when they get indexed and any potential issues which might cause your pages to get de-indexed. So it's flagged all of those duplicate meta descriptions, and there's quite a lot of them. But thankfully, with this tool, we know where the issue is. So one approach we came up with to fill out these meta descriptions without doing it all manually was to create a custom GPT. I wrote this in about 45 minutes, and all it's doing is going to whatever URL I pass in. I've given it a little bit of context about SSW, and it's going to generate a meta description for that particular page that's under 150 characters. So that's saving me quite a lot of work there. However, it's still a bit slow just because SSW's website has such a large number of pages. I'd be copying like 4,000 links. So there's an even better approach to doing this if you have a large amount of pages on your site. So what I've done, I've created a Python script in the repo for SSW's website. And all this script is going to do is it's going to walk through the full repo looking for any MDX files, because if there's an MDX file there will be a website in that particular domain, URL, sorry. And it's just going to pass the content of that page using an API request to get the content to ChatGPT through the completions API. And this is the system prompt that it's going to use to generate the meta description tags. I've capitalized the request to make the meta description tag under 150 characters just because that's fairly important and it usually misses that step. Now, I'm not going to run the scripts, but I will show you the commit history for after the script was run. So I mentioned that we were hosting the content of our site in Markdown. And this description attribute here in the front matter, if you're not familiar with what front matter is, it's just these triple dashes. And anything in those front matters get used for various attributes on the web page, like your title, whether or not the page has breadcrumbs, and the meta description attribute. But yeah, this description attribute is just going to be used to render a meta tag that meta tag that I showed you earlier. So all somebody has to do is go through this pull request, look at all the meta descriptions that got generated, and then commit them. And because SSW's website is using GitHub Flow, any merges to main automatically get deployed into production. So yeah, that saved us quite a lot of effort there. And as I've gone ahead and run the script repetitively, it takes Google a little while to re-index the site. But the number of duplicate meta descriptions has gone all the way down from 4,700 down to a much more manageable 16, which can pretty much be audited manually. And after I did all of that, I made sure to embed a video in the README for the website so that any employee within the company can run the script themselves. It's Python, which means it's cross-platform, and it doesn't matter which operating system you're using when you run it. Now, for Tina CMS users, I've communicated with the team, and we have something exciting coming in the backlog. We're planning to add a new field in Tina, which will auto-populate the meta description tag for you just based on the content you're using to fill out a page. So you go ahead, you fill out your page content, Tina will pass that content to a service, which will return a meta description tag for your page. So you don't have to worry about filling them out at all. But you do have that option of filling them out manually if you still want to. This is an opt-in thing. So yeah, just to sum it up, that's how you can save yourself quite a lot of time generating meta descriptions for your site using mostly free tools like Python, and even ChatGPT is very cheap. Like running this across like 500 pages is something like it's about the cost of a cup of coffee. So it's still very cheap. And for Tina CMS users, you don't even have to do any of that. This is Caleb Williams from SSW, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.